Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your Shana. Let's get into this. So, I'm really excited. Today is actually the first day that I'm recording on the podcast and doing a YouTube video at the same time. So, I'm just going to get right into this. So, this is the introduction to the HIV series. This segment is just going to be really brief in general and go into kind of the things that we know already. I'm doing this purposely so we can lay down the foundation so we can revert back to this conversation later on in the series. So, as we know, this is common information. I googled it. I also went on Google Scholar for some articles that have a more refined and detailed account on the different layers of HIV as it pertains to research, right? So I came across a few interesting things, but I just want to put these things out there first, right? Okay, so we know in 1981 the first case was registered, or I don't know what they call it, but we had the first case in 1982. And that's another thing, the research is so skewed. It's between 81 and 82, and then they have more than one person that's the first case. One guy was in Canada, another guy was a Frenchman. You could do your own research on that. That's all basically just stuff that's kind of not where I'm trying to go, so that's not really that important, if you get me. Okay, so I want you guys to think of time, right? When we are discussing spiritual warfare and we're going over anything that has something to do with the human race, right? Not just black people, all of us, right? Think of time. Always look at the time frame, look at the geographic location, look at the duration, look at exactly how things started, what else was going on, how it progressed, and how it ended. Always look at that when you're looking at warfare, because there's always something else underlying or in the background, right? As we know, as above, so below. Whatever is going on in the ethers will ultimately manifest down into this dimension. So I'm saying that our genetic structure had begun to be broken down in modern times. I'm sorry, I was eating. When HIV was new to the scene. Now, just think about this for a second, right? When we were initially introduced, us as a people, when we were initially introduced to HIV, this was after the riots. This was after the crack epidemic had been introduced to inner city communities and people of lower socioeconomic backgrounds, right? So I just want to also put that out there. Another thing is, to date, HIV is highest amongst subpopulations. So that is gay and bisexual men across all races. Then you have, this was also another debate, whether black women were more at risk or black men. That is pretty weird, especially since men are known to be the carriers and women have lower incidences and likelihood of being infected because of the vaginal secretion, right? So I found that to be interesting. How do we have lower rates, but we're still in the conversation of being a subpopulation that's most at risk? I get it, because we are the ones having sex with black men, but it's whatever. Not whatever, but you get what I'm saying. Then Latinos were next, and then it was the next on the list was people who inject drugs, and then transgenders. It was in that order. I went on different sites, went to different sources, and that was literally the order on every platform and everywhere that I looked, right? So keep that in mind. And let me just say this, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. I am doing research that anyone can do. I'm just relating what I'm finding to spiritual warfare. Anyone can do this. This is not like rocket science. Like I said, I Googled a lot of this information, and some of the articles that I looked up, I went on Google Scholar. So just if you go on Google and just type Scholar, you'll be able to go onto the different platform, and it would allow you to look up any published research or whatever it is you want to do research on. It's a website that I used in college to do papers. It's like, if you went to college, you know what Google Scholar is. If you're a scholar at all, you know what Google Scholar is. Okay, so right. Okay, so initially, right, we were thinking that people who are engaging, particularly men who engage in same-sex activities, right, we first thought that that was the only people can catch it. And then as time progressed, we found out that this was an STD, right? Now, one of the main things that I found interesting was the time frame that research has shown that HIV was around. Now, when people said like this disease came from monkeys or chimps, I'm not even gonna lie, like I was like, okay, are they trying to insinuate that people were having sex with animals and this is how we got it? But no, this was actually being pointed to the fact that people were consuming these animals. So their trajectory for this HIV is starting at all the way in 1873, right? So research is showing that from 1873 to 1931, HIV had been around. And because people were eating bushmeat, they're saying that this is one theory. Now, remind you, these are all theories. We still have no concrete evidence on where HIV actually originates. I find that so interesting. Out of all the things, we still don't have like an actual origin. So weird. But okay, so bushmeat, if you are not familiar with the term, bushmeat is exactly what it sounds like. It's meat that you get from a bush. So these animals include monkeys, chimpanzees, and rats, certain rats, and it was another animal that you can look it up. Just Google bushmeat, okay? So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. From 1873 to 1931, HIV has been around, but we didn't get the first case until about 50 years later, right? Of course, technology will allow us to further investigate. So I'm trying to make everything come together, and it will. So now, like I said, remember time frame. Now, around the height of the epidemic, before we were like more informed, this they're saying, these are all theories, don't forget, they're saying, research is saying that it's possible that it was spread when injections were given out during the same time that these different other diseases that require antibiotics through a shot. So this is leprosy, yaws, syphilis, and something else that I couldn't pronounce, and I didn't really want to say it because I wanted to do more research on it anyway, because I have no idea what it is, but I did write it down. So yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I'm going to leave you guys with 2 questions, but I just wanted to go over this because this is the first segment about HIV. Now, A lot of this stuff we all know. I just wanted to cover it because this is the first segment, right? And I just wanted to make sure it's gonna all connect later. So now another thing, they're saying that because in Africa, because remember we're saying that this thing originated in Africa, right? Which is weird, because if it originated in Africa and it made its way all the way to Paris or Canada, that's like really freaking traveling. But if that is the case, I guess because it had at least 50 to 100 years to travel from one continent to the next, right? Okay, so I'm sorry, across two continents. So in theory, it makes sense. Okay, now remember that there's two types of HIV. Now they're saying that the type 1, the one that's easily transferred and that's responsible for almost 90% of the HIV cases, is from chimpanzees, and it's mainly in Central Africa, whereas HIV-2 is less transferable and it's in West Africa mainly, and it comes from monkeys, right? Crazy, I know. Then, okay, and I also want to say that when you look up statistics about HIV, where it is, who has it, who's been diagnosed within the last whatever duration of time, these are estimates, okay? These numbers are not for sure, because a lot of people don't get tested and a lot of people have it and are not detectable, and then you just have so many different instances. Now, a lot of people probably are wondering what this even has to do with spiritual warfare, and I'm going to tell you, because again, as above, so below. So think about it. If we have this disease that is attacking essentially black people, right? Because if it's in Africa, it's taking out an entire race of people, and then it's spreading, and it's so weird because it's going from one continent to the next, and if it's transmitted through sex, how is it that the black people in other continents are also catching it? Like, are people from Africa coming to America to have sex with only black American people? Weird, I know. Okay, so now what I also found interesting was that they're saying that because if you're aware or know anything about African customs, there are a lot of cultures in Africa where the genital area of the female is mutilated, and they're saying that that increases the likelihood of the disease spreading because you're dealing with blood, whereas their circumcision process decreases because obviously, you know, the man may not use it and it's less fluid, right? So I wanted to pose a question, okay? I have a question. Do you think we will be able to gain immunity without medicine? Like, at this point, right, as a people, not as a black people, as a race, the human race, do you think that there's a possibility that we could have gained immunity to this disease without medicine? Like, as a whole, like the people who are not immune, because remember, we talked about this, there are some people who are immune. You have the Delta 32, you have the TP03, and then you have the, I don't know the name of it, and I didn't catch the name, but there's basically instances where if you were exposed by transmission, you have to make constant contact with the virus in order for it to not accumulate in the body. I know, it's so crazy. Whereas the Delta 32, this is the mutation in the gene, where the mutation actually prevents the virus from latching on to the chromosome, so it can't even connect. And then you have the TP03, where this one, was pretty much I forget. Google it, okay? But yeah, these are the 3 ones, and it's pretty freaking cold in here, so it's cold in here. Okay, so yeah, like I'm gonna stop because we're at 15 minutes. But yeah, like I just, so many debates on like the region it came from and all of that, right? So yeah, this was just like an intro. So we're gonna start definitely doing the thing with the research. I had a lot of stuff that I like started writing down. Just remember time as we move through this thing, and I'm going to constantly bring it up. Like right now, 1996 was when they came out with the first like antiviral drugs, right? So just start gauging. Think about 1996. Think about what was going on in your life in 1996. Think about what was going on around people who are older and who are younger. I'm just going to start gauging it like that. And just think about the time frame. Think about the time frame things were happening in life. And then let's start following the timeline of when basically the breakthroughs were coming, right? And when we were finding out about this epidemic. Like, this is warfare and it's transcending down, and we're going to make the connections. But I believe the Most High is having me use HIV because it's important, it's prominent. This is, like I said, the beginning of where our genes were being mutilated, and that means something before that happened, and this is what it transcended down into: illness, sickness, being cursed, bloodlines being cursed. Pretty much, you know, that's how I see it. Karma being dished out. I also came across a few articles where, you know, religion had came up in the conversation across many different cultures, mainly abroad, where this illness is perceived as punishment from the Most High, and so many different connections to spirituality I have found on just one day of preparing for this one day for the first segment. So I'm sure as the segment moves along and I do more research, I'm going to come across a lot more things that are going to be able to make a lot of sense and help me better understand how to convey, and help me actually understand why I'm even talking about HIV. Like, God has me doing the craziest stuff, y'all. And if you are like tapped in, if you're a believer, if you have any kind of connection with the spirit world, then you know things look one way but they're really another, and vice versa. And it's like a lot of things look weird and people are not gonna like understand, and you just have to get used to people not understanding, or people looking at you like you are crazy. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy your Friday night. I hope all is well with everyone. I hope you are drinking your water, eating your fruit, minding your business. And yeah, child, that's it. I'm up out of here because it is Friday and I just ate. I got something in my tooth. I'll get it out. Y'all, love y'all. Peace.